Welcome to the City of Detroit's Black History Month celebration as curated by the Office of Arts, Culture, and Entrepreneurship and Detroit Media. Please join us here on Channel 22 at 7 p.m. each weeknight and on the city's YouTube page and the Detroit Ace page on Facebook to watch special programs, see amazing performances, and learn about Detroit's powerful Black history. And now, please welcome Detroit's first official city historian, Jamon Jordan, to launch a monthly celebration of Black history that will continue all year, because Black history is Black people, and our stories will no longer be contained to a single month or a single diminished narrative.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamon Jordan. I am the official City of Detroit historian, and welcome to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, where I will be delivering today's lecture on Detroit's Black history. This is a fitting place to talk about Black history, and definitely a fitting place to talk about Detroit's Black history. My presentation today is to dislodge prejudice, the shared mission of Black History Month and the Detroit Plaindealer. You must understand that Black History Month was created not only to talk about the history that makes us proud, but it was also created to make us uncomfortable, especially to make us uncomfortable with racism. You cannot fully understand and appreciate Black History Month without understanding who and where it came from. Carter G. Woodson was born in Buckingham County, Virginia on December 19, 1875. His parents, James and Eliza Riddle Woodson, were enslaved. His father assisted the Union during the Civil War and moved the family to West Virginia when he heard that Huntington, West Virginia, was building a high school for African Americans. Coming from a large poor family, Carter G. Woodson, the fourth of 7 children, could not regularly attend school. Through self-instruction, he mastered the fundamentals of common school subjects by the age of 17. But he wanted more education. He went to Fayette County to earn a living as a miner in the coal fields, and was only able to devote a few months each year to his schooling. Carter G. Woodson entered Douglas High School, a high school built for African Americans, at the age of 20, and he graduated in 2 years. 3 years later, he came back as the principal of that school. While principal, he went to Berea College in Kentucky part-time, where he received his bachelor's in literature in 3 years. Berea College is one of the early anti-slavery and pro-racial equality colleges in the United States. To this very day, it provides a tuition-free college education for all of its students. Dr. Woodson would go to Harvard and become the second African American after W.E.B. Du Bois to graduate with a doctorate from Harvard University. After obtaining his doctorate, Dr. Carter G. Woodson was involved in civil rights, in historical research, in writing, and in building an organization. But more than anything else, Woodson was involved in education. One of the reasons why education was primary in his life, in the life of Woodson, and in his work, was due to the struggles and obstacles that Woodson had to overcome to get his own education. The same year as that racist, demeaning film, Birth of a Nation, was being screened in the White House with Woodrow Wilson as the president, in 1915, Carter G. Woodson founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History at the Southside Wabash YMCA. Today, that organization is known as ASALH, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Woodson believed that if African Americans and whites knew more about African American history, this would help to make racial progress. African Americans would be able to have a complete understanding of their contributions to the world, especially the United States, and whites would know that African Americans are not inferior. However, more than that, Woodson believed that teachers needed to know this history, and much of the association's work was with teachers. The Journal of Negro History was founded in 1916 by the association and Carter G. Woodson, and it was largely aimed towards educators. In 1922, Woodson wrote the book, The Negro in Our History, again aiming this towards teachers. 4 years later, Negro History Week was founded by Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, and that was 1926, and it was aimed at educating teachers about African and African American history. The week February 7th through February 14th, took place on the week of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln's birthday, 2 days that were already celebrated in a number of black communities throughout the United States. Churches, clubs, and schools were the main sites for Negro History Week events. This week was originally used to emphasize wide-scale teaching of black history, especially to teachers, most of whom were unaware of the contributions of black people to world history and civilization, as well as U.S. history. Woodson was devoted not only to historical research, he never married or had children, he was devoted to black history. He said, if a race has no history, it has no worthwhile tradition, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated. Woodson came to Detroit in 1931 at the invitation of the Aleatorian Business and Professional Women's Club, an organization of prominent black women in Detroit, to speak at the first public ceremony in Detroit to celebrate Negro History Week. He spoke at the Lucy Thurman YWCA. Both the YMCA and the YWCA were segregated in the city of Detroit. So there was a downtown YMCA for white men and the St. Antoine YMCA in Paradise Valley for African American men. Then there was the downtown or the Central YWCA for white women, and a few blocks away, also in Paradise Valley, was the Lucy Thurman branch of the YWCA for African American women. For the next few years, it would be black women, the Aleatorians, the Detroit Study Club, the Detroit Housewives League, the Detroit Association of Colored Women's Clubs, who would organize the Negro History Week events in Detroit. Any time that African Americans have made progress, black women have been at the forefront of that progress. In 1933, Woodson wrote his most influential book, The Miseducation of the Negro. And in 1938, the Detroit branch of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History was founded by Fannie Peck and Sylvia Tucker. And from that point forward, they have been organizing Negro History Week and then Black History Month events in Detroit. In 1966, during the Black Power movement, many people began to refer to the week not as Negro History Week, but as Black History Week. By the early 1970s, some groups had begun to celebrate it as Black History Month. And in 1976, on the 50th anniversary of the celebration, Black History Week was officially extended to Black History Month. When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one out for a special benefit. His education makes it necessary. What Woodson wrote in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, in 1933. But there had long been a tradition of using education, history, and writing to fight against racism. And that tradition existed in Detroit as well. When Dr. Carter G. Woodson was just a young boy, before he would become a scholar of history, there was an institution in Detroit making history in the 1880s and 1890s. The Detroit Plaindealer was founded in 1883 as the first black newspaper in Detroit. Established by four black men, brothers Benjamin Pelham and Robert Pelham Jr., William H. Anderson, and Walter Stowers, the newspaper published from 1883 to 1894 and did not merely report the news, but got directly involved in civil rights on behalf of the black community. For a little over a decade, the Plaindealer exposed Southern Jim Crow, supported civil rights, and became a major force in the rise of black political candidates and black political institutions. It became a major voice for the black community in the city of Detroit. The leading founder of the paper, Robert Pelham Jr., was born in 1859 in the same state that Carter G. Woodson would be born 20 years later, Virginia. Also, like Carter G. Woodson, Pelham was born into a family of 7 children. His brother and co-founder of the paper, Benjamin, was born in 1862. By the early 1870s, Robert was working for the Detroit Daily Post, a newspaper founded by the abolitionist and radical Republican Zachariah Chandler. By 1878, his younger brother Benjamin joined him working at the Detroit Daily Post. In 1879, Benjamin founded The Venture, a periodical publication that focused on short stories and essays. Walter Stowers, another of the Plaindealer's founders, was born in slavery in Kentucky. His parents escaped to Canada, and Stowers came to Detroit as an adult and graduated from business school. William H. Anderson was born in Sandusky, Ohio in 1857, and after coming to Detroit, he graduated from high school in 1875 and became a bookkeeper. In 1883, he joined the Pelhams and his good friend Walter Stowers in founding the Detroit Plaindealer. The paper immediately focused on civil rights in the South and the North, including civil rights in the city of Detroit. The paper pioneered the work of black women journalists by publishing the activities and writings of Ida B. Wells, the anti-lynching crusader, as well as having a black woman on the staff as a reporter and editor. That black woman was Meta Pelham, born in Fredericksburg, Virginia in 1865. She was the sister of Robert and Benjamin Pelham. She was an early black woman journalist in Detroit and in the United States. Meta joined the Plaindealer as a journalist and part of the editorial staff in 1886 at the age of 21. The paper supported the Afro-American League, the earliest national civil rights organization, and they used the term Afro-American in this newspaper rather than Negro or colored. When the paper ended publication in 1894, all of the founders continued successful work in various careers. Robert Pelham Jr. continued as a journalist in Washington, D.C., and a civil rights activist. And for 37 years, he worked for the U.S. Census Bureau in Washington, D.C. While there, in 1905, he invented and patented a pasting machine and then a counting machine in 1913. When he retired after nearly 4 decades at the Census Bureau, he was the head of the Statistics Division at the Census. He died in 1940. Benjamin Pelham, from 1895 to 1942, worked in Wayne County government. He served for many years as Wayne County Chief Accountant and then was elected the Wayne County Auditor. He was known as the Czar of Wayne County because of his financial skill as well as his powerful influence in Wayne County politics. He died in 1948. Walter Stowers went to law school after leaving the paper, became a civil rights attorney, a writer, and eventually Deputy Wayne County Sheriff and Deputy Wayne County Clerk. He died in 1932. William Anderson became a sought-after speaker and writer. He was one of the leaders of the Afro-American League, the first civil rights organization in the United States. He died in 1916. And Meta Pelham, the sister of Robert Pelham Jr. and Benjamin Pelham, and a journalist at the Plaindealer, will become one of the most well-known teachers in the city of Detroit and a leader in numerous organizations, including the Detroit Study Club, the Detroit Association of Colored Women's Clubs, and the National Association of Colored Women. These are some of the most important black women's organizations to ever be established. She died in 1941, still trying to urge black women to become journalists and black men and women to start their own newspapers. The mission of the newspaper was, quote, to overcome distrust, to demonstrate that the Plaindealer is an impartial advocate of everything for the welfare of the Afro-Americans, to set an example that there is no field of labor which cannot be successfully explored and cultivated by the Afro-American who is energetic and painstaking, to provide a medium for the encouragement of literary work, for the creation of a distinctive and favorable Afro-American sentiment, for the dislodgement of prejudice, and for the encouragement of patriotism. All black newspapers in Detroit, the Detroit Tribune, the Michigan Citizen, and the present-day Michigan Chronicle, they all owe a debt to the Detroit Plaindealer. And in 1977, a historical marker was approved and completed to honor the history of the Detroit Plaindealer in Detroit, Michigan. But it was never erected until a woman, a leader, a force in Detroit, a woman who followed Meta Pelham's advice and became a black woman journalist, and also a pioneer in journalism at WGPR, the first black-owned TV station in the nation. Before BET, before OWN, before TV One, before Bounce, there was WGPR in the city of Detroit. Karen Hudson Samuels was co-chair of the Black Historic Sites Committee, the chair and co-founder of the WGPR TV Historical Society, and when she found out that the first black newspaper had never been honored with a Michigan historical marker, she led the movement to find that marker and have it erected. And in October 2020, during a worldwide pandemic, she got the marker erected in Capitol Park and organized a ceremony for the installation of that marker. We lost Karen Hudson Samuels almost 1 year ago on February 9th, 2021, during Black History Month. And she, like Robert Pelham, Benjamin Pelham, Walter Stowers, William H. Anderson, and especially like Meta Pelham, and even like the Detroit Plaindealer itself, is a Detroit icon of Black history, and we salute them all this Black History Month. As they dislodge prejudice, upset racism and white supremacy, we stand on all of their shoulders. Thank you.